Do you see that shrub behind me? We're gonna plant it. You wanna know what it is? I bet some of you do know already. This shrub that I have right here is a rhododendron, as some of you might have guessed. And right now the blooms are a little bit faded, but it has these absolutely bright magenta colored pink blooms, and it is gorgeous. And I thought it would make a beautiful impact in this area over here. I will show you the area in a little bit, but right now I want to talk a little bit about this rhododendron. This is the Nova Zembla rhododendron. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Such a funny name. I don't know who comes up with these names. So rhododendrons prefer to be in part sun, so that's 4 to 6 hours of sunlight. This area over here, I think where it is right now, gets probably full sunlight, but I really want to put it in here. Eventually this area is going to turn into a shade area. There is some shade from these trees behind it that it gets in the afternoon, late afternoon I would say, but I think it should give it enough protection. We are in zone 5B over here, so our summers are not as drastic as those of you who are in the south, so I think this shrub should be okay. I see these shrubs all around here in full sun and they do great in our area. They love our area. Now rhododendrons require an acidic soil, and our soil here is pretty neutral, so they prefer an acidic soil of 4.5 to 6. And our soil is around the 7 pH. It's 6.8 to 7. Some areas are a little bit higher than that. So some areas are more alkaline. So to make sure that this rhododendron is going to make it in here, I'm also going to be adding in some soil acidifier. I'm using Job's Organic Soil Acidifier. I'm not affiliated with them. I do have an affiliate link, and you can click on that if you are interested in purchasing this exact soil acidifier. And all it is just elemental sulfur, and that's going to help acidify the soil in here and help this plant absorb the nutrients that it needs from the soil. For plants that love an acidic soil, they need that soil acidifier. They need the low pH so that they can absorb the iron that's present in the soil. Your soil might be rich in iron, but if the soil does not have the right pH for the plant, those plants are not going to be able to absorb that iron. And I'm also going to give it some organic chicken manure and some fertilizer as well. So I have some organic slow release fertilizer and chicken manure from our chickens. That's absolutely natural and organic. And this chicken manure that I have has been sitting in the coop for all winter. My husband just cleaned up the coop, and so now I'm able to use all that chicken manure around all the plants that love an acidic soil, because also chicken manure is a little bit on the acidic side. When you are using something like chicken manure or any type of manure or compost, you want to make sure that that compost or manure has completely cooled. That's the term they use, which simply means it has decomposed and is not and is safe to put around the plant. When the manure hasn't fully decomposed yet, it can burn your plants because it will have a super high acidity, and it will also be physically hot while it's decomposing as well. And there are a lot of chemical things that are happening in there that I haven't studied yet, but I would like to. And then I can talk to you about them a little bit more once I get to know these chemical reactions, what's happening in there during the decomposition of manure and compost. So like most plants, it likes a moist and good draining soil, and we do have a pretty good draining soil because when this house was being built, so they took all the soil that was here, which was a farm soil. This land used to be a farm all around us over here, and they took all the soil and replaced it with sand and rocks and a little bit of topsoil on the top. So we have like about 6 inches of topsoil, and the rest is sand and rocks. It's unfortunate, but you know, it makes for good drainage, and we just have to add a lot of organic stuff over the surface of the soil so that would decompose and just change the structure of the soil over the years. It's going to take a whole lot of years, and it took me so many years to do that in the vegetable garden. When we first moved into this house, the soil over there was just terrible. I think One of the beds that was absolutely dead and nothing was growing in it this year is doing amazing, and I'll be showing you that in a separate video hopefully. And I talked about my technique, what I do, and I will leave a link for you down in the description box below if you are interested in knowing what I do in my raised beds, in my vegetable garden, and how I enhance that soil and make it absolutely rich and full of organic matter. But back to this rhododendron over here. Let me turn the camera around and show you this area and kind of give you an idea of what's happening in here, what will be happening in the future, so that you can kind of envision what I'm envisioning in my head. So here we go. I'm going to start with this corner over here. We have here what I believe is a blue cedar, and about 3 years ago I started this bed under this tree. This was just full of weeds and nothing pretty in here at all. And I pulled up the grass from this side over here and I planted it, and then I put down cardboard and mulch on this area. But I didn't get to planting it yet. It's been 3 years and I didn't get to planting it. But I'm kind of happy because I have a good plan for this area right now. And I see that a deer just came and ate one of my hostas. Oh no, I need to start putting some deer repellent on them, because that is a struggle over here. Anyways, so we have this bed over here. I'll bring you a little bit closer in just a second. And we used to have a juniper right here that we had to cut down, because in this area right here was a white pine that we lost a huge branch off of it, and we had to cut it down, and both the white pine and the juniper over here were touching each other. So half of this juniper on this side was completely dead, so we had to cut it down. So after that I felt like I needed to plant something evergreen in here, and I came with the muggle pine. I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong. And I also have a video on that. You can watch that after this video. And then eventually, in around that area, I'm going to be planting a Spartan juniper in the back right there. So we have these over here, and if I can back up without running into the mulch pile, the rhododendron is going to be here. And this rhododendron grows about 5 feet wide and I believe 5 feet tall. We'll check the tag again just to make sure. So it's going to grow about 5 feet wide in diameter, so that's 2.5 feet on each side of the rhododendron. So on this side of the rhododendron also I'm thinking of putting in some tall grass that will provide some kind of wispy texture in here, and will provide some beautiful plumes in the summer and give this kind of dancing in the breeze look right here, to just kind of mask the end of this bed, because the bed is going to end about right there. So it's going to wrap around this way. It's going to follow my finger kind of like that in front of this, and kind of curve up a little bit there, and then marry with that bed right there. And I'm also going to have that bed go into the back right there, and then just kind of pull all the way around this way. So this is going to make it a lot easier for us to mow, of course, because that is a concern for my husband. He just doesn't like to go around plants because it takes him forever to mow that way, and I totally agree because I did a lot of the mowing too for the past few years, and I know exactly what he's talking about. So I will be compassionate to him, and I will make sure that he doesn't have to go around all these plants over here. And that's going to make this area anyways a lot more beautiful. It's going to create a gigantic bed in here, and this bed is going to fill up this whole space basically. And so it's going to end about right here. It's going to provide a lot of interest in this area, and it's going to be kind of tucked in the corner, so this whole space on this side is going to be open. Now eventually one year I'm going to come here and make a flower bed in the back of the house, but that's for another day and another video. And then in front of the Spartan juniper I'm going to be putting probably some sort of a white hydrangea. I'm not sure what yet. Something that I think is going to like the shade, because this tree right here casts shade on this side in the afternoon. I was mistaken. I thought this side in the afternoon gets sun, but I was looking at it the other day and it turns out that this side gets shade. And by adding the Spartan juniper in here, eventually that's also going to cast some shade. So whatever I put in here is going to need to like the shade. So this bed is going to take a whole lot of years to build to get to the point where I want it to get, of course, because it is going to require a lot of plants, and you know, it is expensive to get to buy plants, and also it takes work to put all this bed in here and to put all this effort. So I am going to use the no dig method. I'm not going to put compost because that's just going to be expensive and I don't want to take that route. But I am going to be putting down some mulch, some cardboard and mulch, and I am doing that already around the plants that I am planting. So I did that with the muggle pine right there, and I'm going to do the same thing with this rhododendron over here. So I'm going to put down some cardboard after I plant it, and I'm going to put mulch over it. We have a giant pile of mulch over here, not giant enough for my needs, but that's okay. I can always get some free mulch, hopefully. And I'm going to be using that to cover up this area and other areas in our yard. So I just read the tag and it says that it grows 5 feet tall and 5 feet wide. It didn't say specifically that it grows 5 feet wide, but it said you need to space them about 36 to 48 inches apart, so I'm assuming it grows about 5 feet wide as well. Now there are different varieties of rhododendrons. Some of them grow a lot bigger than others, and some grow as a ground cover, which is super interesting. But this one grows about 5 feet tall and 5 feet wide, and I think it's going to be perfect for this area. Same with the muggle pine on that side. It grows about 5 feet tall to 6 to 10 feet wide, so that's pretty wide. So right now I am going to dig a hole, hopefully about 2 to 3 times bigger than the size of the pot of this plant right here, because you need to make sure to kind of aerate the soil in that area so that the roots can have an easier time to spread. And then once I make the hole, I'm going to put in some soil acidifier directly into the hole, and I'm going to put some fertilizer directly into the hole as well, and I'm going to scratch that really well into the soil, add some soil in with it, and mix it in with the fertilizer and the soil acidifier, and then plant the plant on top of it. I like to dig the hole a little bit deeper than the plant and then add in more soil so that I can mix in the fertilizer and the soil acidifier so that it's not directly touching the plants. Now it is more important to do that when you are planting, when you are using synthetic fertilizers, because synthetic fertilizers can burn the roots of the plants. But I just like to do that just for precaution, just in case if, you know, some plants are sensitive to the fertilizers and I don't want them to get harmed. This looks like a pretty good established plant. I actually got it from Walmart. It was $19. I thought it was a pretty good price for this size of a plant, because usually we can't find these prices in our area unless something is on sale or I don't know, some sort of a miracle. So this plant was calling to me. The other day I was in the car with my husband and the kids, and my husband saw this beautiful rhododendron bush, but it was on the red side. And he's like, oh, look at it, it's so beautiful. So I saw this one, and at the time it was blooming, at the time the blooms were not faded yet, it was super bright and pretty close to the color that he was thinking about, but not red, because I don't want red in our garden. I do have some roses that's sort of on the red side, but they're like a cool red, and I am not a big fan of red. So I thought he might enjoy that. I might one day, just because kind of my heart, it tugs on my heart, you know. And when you love someone, you just want to do something that makes them happy. So I might one day just create an area just for him that is going to have all the colors that he wants. Sorry, my hand is shaking because my arm is getting tired. And so that he can enjoy that area, because he loves color. Not that I don't, but you know, I don't like red and orange and all that, and he likes all those colors. So it's all set. I just have to come back with some cardboard and mulch to cover it up over here, just to make sure the grass doesn't grow in here. So I'll be doing the same thing I did over there. So I took the grass, I flipped it over so that the green part of the grass is facing down, and the root part of the grass is facing up. Then I came and tamped all around it because it's going to have a lot of air gaps in there. And I filled up the rest of the area with whatever soil that was available in here. Of course, we ended up with a whole bunch of rocks as well. So that took a good volume from the space, from the soil that was here. But I also came along with some soil, some bagged soil, and I topped this entire area with some bagged soil because I had the top of the rhododendron pretty high above this area over here, because I did dig the hole pretty deep. I wanted to make sure that if the plant sinks into the soil, because that's going to happen as soon as I water it and a little bit after as well, that it's going to have a pretty good chunk over the soil. So even if it does sink in a little bit, the plant is going to be okay. And this is what I do with all the plants whenever I dig them. Whenever I dig the hole deeper into the ground, I make sure that the plant is at least 1 or 2 inches above the soil, and then I bury the root just like I did over here, just to make sure that no air is touching the root, because that's going to damage it. So I did put in a pretty good amount of fertilizer and a good amount of soil acidifier. I said I was going to use the chicken manure, but I think I'm going to skip it because I did put quite a bit of fertilizer and soil acidifier. If throughout the season I notice that the plant is struggling a little bit, then I'll come back with some chicken manure and add it in. But I think what I added in here should be enough for this plant. I don't think I need to go crazy on this, because some of the soil that I used over the plant also has some fertilizer in it. So I don't want to over fertilize the plant, because the soil that I used on top has some synthetic fertilizer in it. And if I just add a little too much fertilizer, that can be harmful. You don't want to over love your plants. So I'm not going to film the parts where I put down the cardboard and the mulch, just because my husband wants to edge around the beds over here, and I want to allow him to be able to do that, because if I'm filming, he can't do that because of all the noise that will create in the video, and you guys won't be able to hear me. So I appreciate that he waited for me to finish the video before he does that. I actually was filming another video, so if you saw my hands were dirty earlier, that's the reason why, because I was planting already. And I came over here to plant this area. So let me flip the camera around so that you guys can see what this space looks like right now. So here we are, the rhododendron is all planted, and again, just imagine that bed is going to swoop that way and this way, and then go around that way and end right there. So I think that's going to look very beautiful. We're going to have a lot of evergreen elements in here. Again, I don't know if I mentioned that already or not, but rhododendrons are evergreen. They are actually in the same family as azaleas, but a lot of the azaleas are not evergreen. We have a couple azaleas on our property that are evergreen. Azaleas have a smaller leaf, rhododendrons have a bigger leaf, and they tend to bloom a little bit later than the azaleas do. The azaleas bloom a little bit earlier in the spring. So I've always wanted to do a rhododendron, just because I love the bloom structure on them and I love the leaf structure on them, and I do not like it when people kind of shear them into these shapes, like either a square or a ball or whatever. I like them to be freeform because they have a beautiful habit, a growth habit, and I think they are beautiful just as they are. So I think this whole area is going to look very beautiful now. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and if you are new here, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications of whenever I upload new videos. If you like this kind of content, and if you like this video, please hit that like button, because that will allow more people to see it on YouTube. And I will be leaving a video for you right here so that you can go ahead and enjoy it. Until next time, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.